I am moving back to Europe. Well, I'm not moving back to Europe, at least not yet. But traveling with Kristen here is moving back to Europe. And although it will be at least a few years before I make a video with this same title, indicating that I'm moving back to Europe myself, in the meantime, I can at the very least live vicariously through traveling with Kristen here. Now, if you're new to my channel or if you haven't been keeping up with my recent uploads, I am filming this video from Pattaya, Thailand. Over the next few years, really over the next 4 or 5 years actually, my girlfriend and I, my Dutch girlfriend and I, will be traveling around Southeast Asia and potentially South America and Eastern Europe in order to save enough money to eventually move back to the Netherlands and kind of settle down, so to speak. And although I really enjoy Thailand and I suspect I will enjoy the other countries we will be visiting, I do look forward to the day that my girlfriend and I can finally return home. Because for all intents and purposes, I do consider the Netherlands to be my home in many ways. But again, in the meantime, the best I can do is to live vicariously through Kristen, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this reaction.
After more than a year of being back in the United States, I've decided to move back to Europe. And in this video, I'm going to tell you the 5 reasons why. And hopefully, if you're thinking about making a move outside of the US to Europe or any other corner of the world, this can help you with your decision too. This has been a lot harder decision than I thought it would be. And honestly, I didn't know until this week what I was going to do. I've kind of been going back and forth between just staying here in this really nice and comfortable apartment that
So I know of traveling with Kristen. In fact, I think I had seen a few of her videos before I moved to Europe myself, but I haven't been keeping up with her channel well enough to know why she moved back to the US in the first place. So if you keep up with her channel, which if you watch my channel, I'm going to assume that you at least know of her. But if you watch all of her videos and you know why she moved back to the US, then let me know in the comments what made her go back. Because for me, it was not a difficult decision to leave the US at all. At all. Wasn't difficult. I was enthusiastic about leaving. I wasn't sad. I didn't feel any kind of melancholy or anything like that. I was kind of ecstatic, honestly.
I love, or getting back on the road and going out to different countries again. But after contemplating it for a few months, I think it's the right decision for me and also the right decision for this channel. So the first reason why I started thinking about going abroad is because coming back to the US was always something temporary for me. I never thought that when I came back that I would stay here forever. And so it kind of got to the point that after being here for almost, I think it'll be a year and a half when I actually leave, I just started feeling a little bit restless and kind of like asking myself, if I could live anywhere in the world, why would I live here?
That question right there, I think, is a question that more Americans need to be asking themselves. I think what it really is that most Americans either don't know about other places, so they can't really make an informed decision in that way, or they think they don't have the means to go to these other places, even if they do have some information. But if they think they don't have the means to go to these places, clearly they don't have the information, because really most of the rest of the world, including the developed world, is cheaper to be in than the US. The only country I've personally been to where the cost of living surpassed that of the US, or was at the very least very close, was Switzerland. So, I mean, that's one country out of, I think I've been to, 8 countries in the past couple of years? 2.5 years, I've been to 8 countries. Literally only one of them was more expensive than the US, and for good reason. It's because it's just a better place to be. But more Americans need to be asking themselves that. And I love that this point right here is labeled, America doesn't feel like home anymore. I truly resonate with that. I really resonate with that. You heard me mention earlier, the Netherlands is my home. I don't just say that because it sounds good. I say that because I genuinely mean it. Whenever I watch videos, walking tours or cycling tours or even drive-throughs of Dutch cities, even Dutch cities I haven't been to, I do feel a bit of that melancholy. I feel a bit of that nostalgia of cycling into those headwinds in 10 degrees or 5 degrees in the winter. And even though at those times, at those exact moments, I was like, man, I'd really like to be somewhere warm right now. I do miss it. I really, really do miss it. And I know my girlfriend does as well, which again is why we are here in Thailand, so we can save our money as we travel and explore all these different places, so that when we go back to the Netherlands, we can ensure that we never have to leave again.
And at first, the reasons were very much related to my family. I was helping my parents with our senior dog, who sadly passed away last year. My sister was also pregnant with her first baby.
That's the one thing I will say that I won't say regret because it's just part of life, but I do think about a lot, is my family has a cat and she's not getting any younger. In fact, she is pushing, I want to say 14 years old, something like that, 13, 14. I don't know how many years she has left. And then on top of that, my parents just got a new kitten, and by the time I see the kitten will probably be at least 5, 6, 7 years old, and she won't even know who I am. She's gonna be like, who is this random guy walking in my house? So I do think about stuff like that. I try not to think about it too much, but I also kind of mentally told myself, I know I'm getting really personal and vulnerable here. Might even cut this part out of the video, but when I saw my cat before I left my parents' house, I kind of had to mentally prepare myself for the possibility that that might be the last time I'd ever see her. So that's really rough. That right there, that explains it, in my opinion. That's an adequate explanation.
And then she suffered a very traumatic experience at work that I made a separate video about. And then I wanted to be here for the birth of my baby nephew. They're now doing better. He's over a year old now. And so I kind of felt like, okay, the reasons why I came back to the US to kind of have a break from traveling and help my family with different things are now pretty set. Like, of course, I want to be around to visit my family, and I can still visit them from anywhere in the world and they can visit me. But I feel like the main reasons why I came back, those have been completed, and I'm kind of here like, okay, so what's next for me in my life? The second reason that I think you could probably definitely relate to if you're from the United States is simply the cost of living. Now, it's always been pretty expensive to
Every American that I've heard who talked about leaving the US has brought this up. The cost of living is just ridiculous.
live in the US compared to other countries because of our economy, and it's a developed country. But over the past few years since the pandemic, things have gotten insanely expensive. I mean, prices have like doubled, tripled. Like when I first moved to Miami for 3 months in 2020, which was right before the pandemic started, my rent was $1,200 per month. And this
$1,200 is relatively low for Miami. I'm surprised she was able to find an apartment at that price. Because when I moved to my apartment in Dallas, well, not in Dallas proper, in a suburb of Dallas, I was paying around $1,200 a month myself. And again, that was in the suburbs. But I did move kind of during or in the latter stages of the pandemic, so that might be part of it.
This apartment that I'm in right now was $1,800 per month back in 2020. This year in 2025, my rent is $2,800 per month. And so that's just an insight into how much the prices have gone up. Everywhere I've ever lived in Miami over the past few years has just gone up from $1,200 to $2,800.
Do you understand? Do you understand what $2,800 a month would get you here in Thailand? Do you understand how ridiculous your lifestyle would be if you could pay $2,800 a month for rent? You are literally living in a 5-bedroom penthouse with your own private pool, and I am not exaggerating. This right here is around $420, $430 a month. $2,800. It's almost 7 times higher. That's ridiculous.
And for this rent price, like you could live really anywhere in the country for a one bedroom apartment or anywhere in the world. And so being able to work remotely, work from home, live wherever I want in the world, of course, it's really beautiful here. It's really convenient. Everything works. It's like the lifestyle is very easy, but it's very difficult from a cost of living perspective where, I don't live a crazy lifestyle. I don't really like go shopping and buy lots of stuff, but like just being alive in this country and existing is just eye-wateringly expensive. And so I've just found myself thinking like if I can live anywhere in the world and I don't have to be here right now, then why would I stay? I mean, of course.
Not to mention that as a self-employed independent contractor, or maybe, I don't know if she owns an LLC or something like that, a corporation basically. As a business owner in the US, you don't get health insurance through your job because you don't have a job, which means that oftentimes when you're an entrepreneur, your health insurance payment alone is probably at minimum 400 or 500 a month for just you, which would literally be right around or even more than my rent here in Thailand. So rest assured that they're going to get you one way or another. Even if you find a good deal on an apartment or whatever, you find the deal of the century, you can't get around certain things. In Miami, I don't think they really have robust public transit. I know they're a little bit better about bike lanes, but not nearly as good as the Netherlands or anywhere in Europe where you can live without a car. Miami, you probably need a car. So that's another hidden cost. And I'm pretty sure car insurance in Florida is exceptionally high because drivers there are just batshit crazy, from what I've heard at least.
Of course, I have friends here and things like that, but it's like, okay, I could have this same lifestyle for a third of the price in most other countries, or I can have a much better lifestyle in any country for what I pay to be here. It's actually cheaper for me to keep paying rent here and leave and go to another country than it is to pay rent here and stay and eat and buy groceries and take Ubers and things like that. So cost of living is definitely playing a factor. I just feel like it's a big waste of money.
But why would you want to? I mean, everyone has their own private reasons. Maybe she doesn't want to speak on this, but I can't wrap my head around why you'd want to pay for two different lifestyles, though. Because $2,800, I don't care how much you make, that's a lot of money to free up. That is a lot of money to free up. So even if you wanted to have another living accommodation for when you go places, I mean, wouldn't it still be better to just have that somewhere else? I know $2,800 in most of Europe, probably all of Europe, with the exception of maybe Switzerland and Monaco, will get you very, very far. I know in Spain, you're going to live a very nice lifestyle. In the Netherlands, you're going to live a very nice lifestyle. $2,800 a month. Me personally, I would free that up and get rid of the apartment. But that's just me, though.
And I can just leave and cut my cost of living in half or by 2/3. The third reason is because Europe just simply feels like home. I love it there, and every time I go there, I don't want to leave. If you saw my videos from earlier this year in April when I did an exploratory trip to the Netherlands, I really didn't want to leave after that trip was over, but
For some reason, I didn't see that video. Let me know if you want me to react to the video she's talking about. But I'd love to see what she thought about the Netherlands. I definitely relate to not wanting to leave. I mean, you can just see from this one scene right here, you can see how nice the buildings look, how nice the roads look, how clean it is. The Netherlands is honestly maybe the best place to be in the world, objectively speaking. I know people from other European countries might disagree with that, but if it's not at the top, it's near the top, for sure. Maybe right there with the Nordic countries, Switzerland, really most of Europe, if not all of Europe.
the only reason I came back is because now I have this apartment, I have all this stuff, I have furniture, and I'm like, okay, I need to go back to my home base. But I really miss the amazing food that's there. I miss the lower cost of living, even though it's expensive now compared to a few years ago. it's still like a fraction of what it is here. I miss the lifestyle. I miss the more relaxed pace of life. You don't get that rat race feeling there. Even in big cities like London and Paris, it still feels like people have a really good balance in their lifestyle. And I miss the people. Like, I miss the community there. I don't know what it is exactly about Europe. Maybe it's because the population is condensed into a smaller space compared to the US, and there's a lot of travelers there. It's really easy to meet a lot of like-minded people. And I've even like walk the streets of Lisbon, Portugal, and run into people who like recognize me from my YouTube channel or from Facebook or friends of friends. And
Honestly, I think the urban planning plays a pretty big role in that. Because to her point, having more people in a condensed space creates a more ambient environment. And what I found in my personal experience is that that's where you create those memories that ultimately lead to that melancholic feeling when reflecting on not being in that place anymore. So I know for me personally, that is probably the biggest factor that I miss about being in Europe is just how well designed things are in general. Not even just towns and cities, but everything.
it just feels like a very small community feeling compared to like living in a big city like Miami. It's very rare that I would like bump into somebody that I know on the sidewalk. And there's just a lot of like expat groups and meetups, and I don't know. There's something about the like conversations I have with people when I'm living in Europe and the interactions that's just different from the US. And I just miss that. Like, I miss that community feeling. And even though I do have good friends here and I have family that lives in the US, I just kind of miss my lifestyle. I miss the bike culture in the Netherlands. I miss being able to take public transportation everywhere. Even though I don't have a car here, I rely heavily on Ubers, and I miss just being able to get on the metro, get on the tram, get on the.
Honestly, it's probably cheaper to have a car and pay the insurance, even the exorbitant Florida car insurance, gas and all of that, and parking, than it is to take Uber everywhere. Uber is expensive. You're talking maybe 25 to $30 per trip minimum. So if you're going somewhere and coming back, that's $50 to $60 a day. You add that up over the course of a month and it's cheaper to have a car. But I really, really miss being able to cycle everywhere. That's something that I think I really think about a lot. And honestly, being here in Thailand, I feel like if they embraced cycling culture, that would actually make it a much more pleasant place to be in many ways.
Train or book like a $50 flight and to be able to go pretty much anywhere in Europe. And from here, I just paid $400 to fly from Miami to Jacksonville last week. I mean, it's just like the prices here are crazy, but like.
If you don't know, Jacksonville and Miami are both in Florida. That's literally within the same state. That would be akin to flying from, let's say, Groningen to Limburg in the Netherlands and paying 400 euros for that. Absolutely ridiculous. This is why Americans don't travel, by the way, is because it's so expensive. So they assume that it must be like that everywhere, but it's not.
For $400, I'd probably spend $400 a year in Europe, like taking public transportation. So I just really miss that. And I miss all of the diversity and things there are to do, like the history, the culture, just all of the things that I think all of us here really love about Europe. I miss that. Another big factor is my work. Of course, this channel is called Traveling with Kristen, and when I'm not traveling abroad, I can't make videos about travel. I mean, I can make videos talking about travel, but I really like to show you about travel, like I did with the Netherlands videos, Norway, and all of the other countries that I've been to since I had a camera and since I had a YouTube channel, and I really miss making travel videos. I also help people move abroad for a living. I've had a relocation company since 2011, and up until the pandemic, I spent all of those years living in the countries that I helped people move abroad to. So the main countries that I help people move to are Spain, France, Portugal, Italy, the Netherlands, Mexico, Costa Rica. The list goes on, but those are like the top seven countries. And I haven't been living in those countries recently. As you saw on my channel, I went back to Costa Rica temporarily to do some.
One thing that I think is really overlooked when it comes to living and operating in Europe, particularly the EU, is that freedom of movement thing. So basically, of course, if you're coming from the US, you might have visa exemptions. For example, I didn't need to apply for a visa to come here to Thailand, but it's technically a tourist visa. I can only be here for 60 days and then extend for another 30 days, for 90 days in total. But if you're from the Netherlands, for example, you can go to Spain for 5 months and nobody bats an eye. It's perfectly fine. As long as you're a Dutch citizen, an EU citizen, you can just do that. And to me, that's such a unique feature that I don't think any other continent provides, at least to my knowledge. If I'm wrong about that, then definitely correct me in the comments, because I'd love to be wrong about that. But from what I've seen, being an EU citizen gives you access to so many different places, all with a very high quality of life, albeit with a different expression of that high quality of life, a different cultural context, that it's probably the best possible deal overall. And that's a big part of, again, why I want to move back to Europe. Not just for the nostalgia, the melancholy, and the vibes, but also because I recognize that, let's say, for example, if my girlfriend and I are in the Netherlands for 5 years and then decide, hey, we want to move to Spain. Well, if I can secure my Dutch citizenship, I can just move to Spain along with her. I know she can do it because she's done it before. And once I get my EU citizenship, I'll be able to do that as well. Now, I might be oversimplifying that process, but the point is it's possible. So if you're an EU citizen, don't take that for granted.
Administration banking nightmare that I was going through. But I don't see myself living in Costa Rica again anytime soon. I love Mexico. I've been traveling there since I was 16, but the majority of my clients are like going to those, top 5 European countries. Of course, we have partners in all of the countries. We have people that work with us, but it is helpful for my clients and for my business, and also for the channel, to be in the countries that I'm making videos about, in the countries that I'm helping people move to. And also, I talk to so many people every day, not just my relocation clients who I'm working with and like helping them with researching destinations, looking for housing, reminding myself all the time of all of the reasons why I also like to live in Europe and help, so many US citizens move to Europe. But also the people who inquire with my company, like hundreds of people per month, and I'm on the phone all the time with people that are thinking of going abroad, and listening to your stories about why you want to leave the US or Canada and go to Europe. And I keep thinking like, yes, I agree. Why am I not there right now? So I do think it's good for, the time zones, and just keeping up to date with all of the things that are always changing when it comes to visas and like all of the nuances of living in these countries. It's provides extra benefit if I'm able to be there. Of course, I'm able to do my job from anywhere, and I help people move to upwards of 30, 40 countries. That doesn't mean I have to be in all of those places at once, but it is really nice to, be able to be there, meet my clients in person. None of them are moving to Miami, so that's another reason why I would like to go back. And then the last reason is really one of the biggest reasons. And if you've been following my journey on this channel for a while, you know that I've been wanting to get citizenship in Romania and be able to get a European passport. So that's something that I've been working on for this entire year. And just
I wonder why Romania in particular, because she hasn't mentioned Romania up to this point in the video. I'm just going to assume that Romania is an easier country to get EU citizenship in. And if that's the case, then she might have just provided me with some relocation support without even realizing it. So Kristen, if that's the case, thank you.
Just a couple weeks ago, I received my grandfather's naturalization card, which I've been waiting on for months, from the Office of Genealogy in the United States. And now I have that piece of documentation that I've been waiting for, that shows his immigration card from Romania and when he became naturalized in the United States.
Okay, so it seems like more of a familial ties thing. I do not have any relatives who came from Romania, so we can cross that off the list. But the Netherlands is still in play.
And so the next step in the process is to actually go to Romania, learn the language, and then be able to pass the language test and interview to be able to get my Romanian passport. So I don't know how long it will take me. Maybe I'm thinking minimum 3 to 6 months. So I'll be applying for a digital nomad visa or another type of visa to stay in Romania and continue collecting the rest of the documents and apply for my citizenship. So it's kind of this combination of things, but also this week, my landlord asked me if I was going to be renewing the lease of this apartment, and that's coming up at the end of October. And so I had to decide, what am I going to do here? So that's really the last piece, is to take the next couple of months to downsize my belongings and prepare to leave this apartment and not let this comfort zone and bubble that I've created really hold me back from what I feel is next for me in life.
And I know I mentioned this it was probably yesterday's video, if not yesterday's video, one of my most recent videos. If you're going to be a digital nomad, or if you're going to move overseas, or if you're the kind of person who is prone to just moving overseas, I would highly advise you to really buy into the minimalist mentality. Really, really buy into that, because there is nothing more stressful than being on a time crunch and trying to sell all of your stuff. Honestly, if I was her, maybe she intended on staying in the US for longer, but I would have just tried to get a fully furnished place, or just stayed in Airbnbs, or done something where I didn't need to get furniture. All my belongings fit in a suitcase, a duffel bag, and a backpack. And if it doesn't fit in those three things, I don't want it.
And this comes from not just the reasons that I mentioned in this video, but also this intuitive knowing, or like sense that it's time to do something different. That's something that I think you should never ignore. And I know from having talked to thousands of people that also are moving abroad, that idea of wanting to live abroad, it starts as like a tiny thought, like, oh, I wonder if I could live in Italy someday. And then over time, it grows and grows and grows until you finally can't ignore it anymore.
The problem is, most Americans, as soon as they get that thought, either they suppress it, or they present that thought to somebody else, and that somebody else, whose opinion they respect and value, suppresses it for them. So honestly, I kind of hope to counteract that with the content that I make, and I'm assuming that she has the same intention in mind. But a lot of Americans literally don't see it as a viable option, without realizing how simple and straightforward the process actually is.
Watched like 400 YouTube videos, or you've reached out to someone like me to get help, and then finally you actually take action on that. And so it's the same for me as it is for you. Like, when I get that inkling of like, it's time for a change, whether it's in a job, a relationship, where you're living, something like that, I think it's really important to follow that intuition. And that's what I'm doing in this case. So if you would like to follow along on the journey, make sure to subscribe, turn on your notifications.
So I love that she mentioned that also applies to relationships, because I've begun to realize that a lot of Americans have a toxic relationship with the US. I think we all have that one friend, or that one acquaintance, that one relative, whoever it may be, just that one person who is with somebody who is no good for them. They know is no good for them, but they still don't leave. They refuse to leave that person because they've grown familiar with that person. That person has become normal to them. They've normalized the negative treatment that the person is constantly forcing them to undergo. And oftentimes, these people, they stay with that person for far longer than they should. And in the same way, I think I see a lot of Americans justifying the direction that the US is going in. And because of that, the US has no incentive to try to do better. And by the time Americans realize that it is in their best interest to leave that relationship, it'll be far too late.